Two lives occupied Kenny Rogers for 30 years. To the world, he was a polished figure who appeared in control. After the cameras turned off, he changed completely. A man juggling private conflicts and partnerships he could never maintain. During his final chapter, he finally expressed his deep regret after decades of silence. Kenny's public image. Kenny Rogers was frequently viewed as a modest country guy with a silver beard, warm eyes, and a voice that could transform even the simplest stories into life lessons. His public image was so natural that fans rarely questioned it. He appeared to be a star who did not let fame define him. He portrayed himself as the person he wanted others to see. Years before becoming the face of mainstream country music, Rogers recognized the power of persona. In the late 1960s, he gained fame with the First Edition, a group that combined rock, folk, and psychedelic elements. After gaining national exposure with the band, he had a unique ability to connect with audiences in his solo career in the 1970s. The release of Lucille in 1977 marked a significant transition. His style was reflected in this song. There was a powerful storyline, a sense of lived experience, and a personal and global emotional depth. Rogers expertly utilized his narrative skills, making it his signature. His public presence became one of his best strengths after that. He maintained a benign, approachable country gentleman image, avoiding portrayal as an act. Kenny recognized that being truthful doesn't mean outlining everything about himself. It required consistency. He presented himself as trustworthy, friendly, personable, and smart without being arrogant. He was defined by his wisdom. His hoarse voice conveyed experience even in simple songs. Listeners of all ages felt understood by him. His mature tone resonated with older ears. Younger listeners appreciated authenticity. The unique attraction of his voice made him a trusted voice in American music, but it would not have been successful without the appearance. By the early 80s, the image was fully developed. Whether on stage or in a talk show interview, his silver hair, nicely kept beard, and pleasant grin remained consistent. The work was professional, credible, timeless, and distinct. Visual consistency enhanced his credibility, portraying him as a reliable figure in a chaotic industry. This public image was successful, with Kenny Rogers selling over 120 million albums worldwide. He was among the top-selling male musicians in music history, transcending country. He gained popularity on country radio, mainstream charts, and worldwide playlists, introducing new fans to country music. At the time, his ability to transition between genres without losing his identity was rare. The following awards weren't only popularity awards. He revolutionized the genre with his 3 Grammys, 6 Country Music Association Awards, and 8 Academy of Country Music Awards. In 2013, Kenny Rogers was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, confirming his cultural impact beyond his own music. He popularized his tunes in America. Gambler was more than a hit. Language absorbed it. Many people adopted lines from the song in regular conversation, despite not listening to country music. His duet with Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, is one of the most famous to date. Lady by Lionel Richie demonstrated his crossover appeal. His songs like She Believes in Me and Through the Years established his credibility as a trustworthy storyteller on relationships, aging, regret, and commitment. His persona went beyond music. He cemented his fantasized identity by starring in TV movies based on The Gambler. Films made him more visible to non-music fans, enhancing his public presence. Another aspect of his image was charity. Throughout his career, Rogers quietly funded several causes. His humanitarian work enhanced his reputation as a person of integrity. Despite not being a marketing strategy, this personal choice matched his established image. But he took chances. He co-founded Kenny Rogers Rowers, a fast-growing restaurant franchise, in the 1990s. The company showcased a side of him that fans didn't usually see, a businessman keen to experiment. Perhaps Kenny Rogers' longest public identity was most noteworthy. He remained relevant for 6 decades, from the 1950s to the 2010s, unlike many other musicians. Trends changed. Persona remained constant despite industry changes. He was a knowledgeable storyteller and reassuring presence who also understood life well enough to sing about it honestly. Although he appeared calm and confident, he struggled privately and rarely shared his troubles with others. While his public image was strong, it wasn't the full picture. Not even close. The inner battles. Although Kenny Rogers appeared confident on stage, he concealed his personal struggles from the public. He preserved his polished image because he knew its significance. However, Rogers struggled with personal decisions, fears, disappointments, and losses that formed him as much as his accomplishments. Some of these struggles were only apparent later. Later in life, he addressed others honestly when the reality became unavoidable. Cosmetic surgery presented one of his biggest obstacles. Rogers regrets a decision he made in the early 2000s to undergo an eyelid operation. He aimed to give aging actors a younger, renewed appearance to meet the demands of the entertainment industry. However, the change in his looks caused him to feel disconnected from himself. Rogers admitted to regretting it as a personal mistake caused by pressure and vulnerability years later. He relied on his public image as the trusted face of gambling. This modest but significant incident symbolized his sensation of strain. Despite knowing who he was, he struggled to be true to himself due to external pressures. It was only one layer of pressure to look timeless. Rogers' financial struggles contrasted with his success. His most noteworthy example was co-founding Kenny Rogers Rowers, a restaurant chain in the 1990s. The business debuted with strong momentum. It rapidly grew, garnered national attention, and first appeared to be a new beginning. A unique musician transforming an entrepreneurial idea into a promising venture. The restaurant industry is unpredictable, making it challenging to maintain the chain's early success. As competition increased, expansion outpaced stability, and long-term costs outweighed advantages. Rogers faced financial losses and public perception of a failed business venture when the company folded in the U.S. He never concealed it. He accepted the outcome as a failed risk, but it added a complex aspect to his own tale. His near-perfect constancy was challenged by this setback, highlighting that success in one field does not necessarily translate to another. However, emotional issues were more challenging than financial ones. Throughout his 60-year career, Rogers lost dear friends, collaborators, and fellow artists who changed his life. The country music scene is close-knit, and many of his early colleagues were also cherished friends. As the decades progressed, respected producers, songwriters, and singers passed away. Some worked together for years. Some legends he admired. Others contributed to his success behind the scenes as creative network members. Each death held personal significance, and he periodically mentioned how swiftly time was passing. These moments are often hidden by fame. Rogers saw them as markers of a rapidly fading period. Even his close friendship with Dolly Parton, a significant part of his career, was emotionally taxing. Parton's loss of partners, particularly members of her artistic circle, upset him more than he expressed publicly, despite their tight relationship. These weren't only professional setbacks. Reminders of his life spent on the road, in studios, and on stages with individuals who understood him better than others. It hurt to lose them. The feeling of solitude grew stronger with age. The frequent challenge he encountered is common for most long-running entertainers. Fame's pressure. Kenny Rogers created a beloved character. The gambler, mentor, and country gentleman remained calm, friendly, and composed. But keeping that image took discipline. He had to attend interviews despite fatigue. It required persistent touring, sometimes to burn out. He carried the expectations of millions, not only as a singer, but also as a symbol of reliability in an unpredictable world. He often remarked that identity may be overbearing in private. The touring schedule was physically and emotionally demanding. He managed performances, recording sessions, and public appearances while relocating between places for years. He was exhausted, but rarely showed it to audiences. During times of insecurity, he questioned his ability to maintain his persona and be energetic enough to meet audience expectations. While these pressures didn't diminish his passion for performing, they added complexity to his seemingly simple life. Kenny Rogers was appreciative for the chances and pride in his work. He struggled to reconcile his true personality with the image the world saw of him. Private challenges remained largely hidden for decades. The hits, honors, and confidence were evident to fans. However, the emotional expenses, sacrifices, and errors that are often overlooked were also present. And these obstacles were just one aspect of a complex situation, as some of his toughest experiences were not private. They were public, controversial, and occasionally shocking. Kenny Rogers disputes. Throughout his career, Kenny Rogers endured criticism and personal errors, challenging his clean, reliable image. Criticism from within the country music community was a constant issue. Rogers' shift from traditional country to pop-influenced music in the late 70s and 80s was criticized by purists as a diluting of the genre. His most popular songs were praised globally, but detractors criticized him for abandoning the traditional country sound of past decades. It wasn't revolt for Rogers. It was artistic instinct. He favored songs with narration and melody, even when they crossed genre boundaries. Still, criticism weighed on him. He aimed for both commercial success and peer recognition. However, this mix became challenging as his music became more mainstream. Although he received numerous honors, other industry critics withheld recognition, generating tension during his best years. Although he believed in his choices, the notion of selling out persisted after the singles fell from the charts. Rogers' greatest intimate issue occurred in the early 1990s, when he was entangled in an intimacy scandal that made headlines. Although the press sensationalized the incident, Rogers confessed that it affected his reputation during a vulnerable time in his life. During the incident, his fourth marriage to Marion Gordon ended, leading to more public attention during a period of personal difficulty. The scandal increased pressure and media intrusion, in contrast to his previous experiences. Later, he regretted nearly losing the trust of his decades-long audience. Roger occasionally revisited his past of illicit substance use in his early music career. He, like many young musicians in the 60s and 70s, dabbled with industry-standard substances. Although his experiences were not as dramatic as those of famous rock artists, they led to the rock and roll lifestyle of touring and playing. Rogers did not glorify or focus on these choices in interviews. He admitted to being part of the culture before becoming the well-known character fans later embraced. By the end of his career, most of these disputes were no longer remembered. His long-term steadiness, hits, and generosity outweighed his faults. Despite causing career turmoil, these incidents were, though modest, he had challenges in his personal life, including love, commitment, and maintaining connections among fame. Troubled romantic life of Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers had a successful profession but a less stable personal life. His goal to reach the pinnacle of American music often conflicted with marriage, family, and long-term commitments. He openly acknowledged the tension, prioritizing work for years. He had a complex love history with true intentions and genuine devotion, but failed to maintain partnerships due to celebrity. At 19 years old, he married Janice Gordon in 1958. The connection was based on youth rather than chemistry. Carol Lynn was their daughter. However, Rogers later admitted to the immediate obstacles she faced. Arguments were easy. His patience grew slowly, and he realized he joined marriage without comprehending its demands. In 1960, the relationship terminated. He took responsibility for the breakup, citing being too young, inexperienced, and unsure of his identity to sustain a marriage. Rogers wasn't single long after his divorce. Later that year, he married Jean Rogers, starting a brief 3-year engagement. No children were born from the marriage, which coincided with his musical career that he aimed to establish his sound, identity, and position in a fast-changing industry. This preoccupation hindered a solid home life. He endured long hours of work, rehearsing, and performing while negotiating the financial challenges of music. Rogers later said that he initiated the marriage with good intentions, but his career goals took precedence. After the breakup in 1963, he was aware of the potential costs of success. His third marriage was a pivotal moment in his personal and professional life. In 1964, he married Margot Anderson. Rogers was gaining musical momentum by then. He gained recognition for his talent and was offered a part with the First Edition, his first large platform. His marriage to Margot resulted in a son, Kenny Rogers Jr., and lasted 12 years, longer than his previous two. However, during those 12 years, Rogers' career accelerated into something bigger. Due to recording sessions, concerts, TV appearances, and travel, he was frequently away from home. Growing popularity led to persistent time demands, causing family life to go on hold. Rogers knew about this imbalance. He later stated that his marriage dissolved in 1976 due to his job taking precedence, leading to an unsettled and distant home life. He didn't blame his wife for the breakup. He blamed his life's motion. The following year, in 1977, Rogers married actress Gordon, noted for her work on Hi-Ha. Their connection developed during his peak fame. His success with The Gambler, Lady, Lucille, and Islands in the Stream made him a globally recognized musician. Rogers pursued his dream career, but the pace was demanding. He toured, filmed TV specials, performed in movies, and maintained a public presence that took discipline and stamina. He and Gordon welcomed Christopher Cody Rogers, a son, and maintained a stable marriage for years, unlike past partnerships. The couple structured their family around his business and had a 16-year partnership before meeting Wanda Miller. Even this marriage collapsed under celebrity. The divorce occurred in 1993, with Gordon receiving an estimated $60 million settlement. Despite financial headlines, Rogers described the parting as amicable. He expressed genuine affection for Gordon and acknowledged their time together, but was open about the divorce. His frequent absences along with his professional schedule made a stable marriage practically impossible. It was a pattern he had seen before, regretting it but struggling to change. Rogers' life changed in 1993 when he met Wanda Miller in Atlanta. While working as a waitress at a restaurant where he dined, their relationship evolved swiftly. The couple faced public scrutiny due to their 28-year age gap, but both maintained that their bond outweighed the criticism. According to Rogers, Wanda understood him better than anyone else, and their compatibility was unequivocal. Roger began a new chapter in his life when he married in 1997. By then, he slowed down his pursuit of career milestones. He toured less. His priorities changed. Having established his legacy, he approached life with a clearer focus on what was important. He and Wanda had twin boys, Justin and Jordan, in 2004. He regularly highlighted how fatherhood in his later years restored a feeling of balance he had been lacking. Rogers often called Wanda his soulmate. Not dramatically, but with the clarity of someone who has experienced enough life to distinguish compatibility and chemistry. A world that craved continual motion became tranquil under her. They were married till his death in 2020. She provided steadiness in his latter years, which he had not experienced in previous partnerships. Despite his subsequent stability, Rogers still struggled with regrets and choices he wished he had made differently. In his latter years, regrets grew more apparent as he faced his sorrow and death. At the end of his life, Kenny Rogers grew more outspoken about decisions he regretted. He had achieved much as a musician, but the personal cost of achievement remained. He expressed that his biggest regret was not choosing a career, his time away from home. Since touring, television, albums, and stardom took precedence for decades, he conceded that his earlier marriages may have survived if he had stepped back sooner. He never attributed blame to his partners. Instead, he cited his ambition and pace. He mentioned his decision to undergo cosmetic surgery, which he later called a mistake. He felt the procedure altered his appearance, detracting from his fan-recognized image. He realized he could have embraced his age instead of challenging it. Despite regrets, Rogers embraced his later years with uncommon gratitude. Although his life was complicated, he often felt fortunate to have lived it. He valued his fans, collaborators, and opportunities that persisted long after most artists had faded from public view. Above all, he was grateful to Wanda Miller, his fifth wife, for restoring stability in his life after decades of instability. At the end of his life, the gap between his public and private personas grew. The world viewed the smiling legend with the silver beard, a confident storyteller. Though privately, Rogers faced the same issues as others as they aged. His health declined. He found his body slowing and his sense of time altering. That separation between public and private self had always existed, but it became evident as he aged. He spent his last years reconciling the two factions. With Wanda and his twins, Justin and Jordan, he developed a gentler family life that balanced the commotion of his earlier decades. By 2017, Rogers accepted that it was time to retire. After more than 60 years in music, his body no longer allowed him to perform at the level he required of himself. His farewell tour, The Gambler's Last Deal, provided him a chance to say goodbye on his own terms. He spoke about retiring publicly with calm acceptance, presenting it as a gradual step away from the spotlight. Privately, the decision was harder. Abandoning a career that had defined most of his life meant accepting that age and disease were catching up with him. The once boundless vigor vanished. After retiring, Rogers struggled with health concerns, including bladder cancer, which weakened him and limited his ability to remain active. Limited information was released publicly. To maintain his career's dignity, he and his family chose privacy. When he received hospice care, it showed the impact of his sickness. However, the family maintained the gentle, respectful distance he sought for personal issues. Kenny Rogers passed away on March 20th, 2020 at the age of 81. After decades of travel and professional pressures, he died calmly at home with Wanda and his family, who had become his life center. The announcement said he died naturally. Fans worldwide were sad and grateful. Various musicians, from country titans to pop performers, paid tribute to his versatility. American cultural songs were recalled by many, although others praised his generosity and willingness to mentor budding musicians. His family quietly grieved, preserving the hidden side of him. In 2023, Wanda Miller released Life is Like a Song, a posthumous album featuring unreleased tunes from his final years. The project revealed his duality. The artist was rewarded for his perseverance in working despite declining health. The family wished to share the last bits of music left by the husband and father. Kenny Rogers was contradictory. However, in his later years, he balanced these discrepancies. He valued family, embraced aging, and ended his career with dignity. His death ended a significant era in American music. However, his work and its compassion still resonate with millions who grew up hearing his stories and song. Both aspects of his life are interwoven even after death. A legend recognized worldwide and a guy remembered at home. Your thoughts on Kenny Rogers' double life? Leave your answers in the comments below. Remember to click on the next video, like it, and subscribe to our channel for more updates if you love this video.